The attendance was 18,293, complete sellout. The gate was 7.25 million. It's the highest grossing event in the arena's history, excluding the NBA Finals. Fight of the night, obviously Hubbard and Katana, and performance of the night, so no shockers either. Zhang and O'Malley. They all won $50,000.
We'll start with Sean O'Malley. I mean, it's not just a win, but he looked impressive doing it, right? The distance control in the first round, and then to get Aljo frustrated to land that counter. There's been some talk of like, oh, he's had everything handed to him. But after a performance like that, against one of the best champions in the division's history, this guy belongs at the top.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Dana White privilege. You don't become number 2 in the world without earning it. So, and I don't pick that. You people do. So then he went in there and delivered tonight. Yeah. There is no such thing as Dana White privilege in this company. They can do that type of shit in boxing. If you make it to the top here, you know what I mean? I'm not going to say that some people can't catch some breaks sometimes. People are hurt. This and that happens. Certain matchups can't happen at one time. You got a situation where Merab won't fight the champion. I mean, there's lots of different things that can happen, but it has nothing to do with us. It's just the way that timing and everything else plays out. When you get to a title shot, you've earned it here.
What did you think of his performance?
Who?
Sean, tonight. How good did he look?
How do you even want me to answer that question? He knocked him out. In my head, when you think about the fight and you think about Sterling, you say to yourself, how does Sean beat this guy? How does Sean stop the takedown? He's not going to be able to stop the take. Maybe he'll do it a couple times, but all night. Cejudo couldn't. But you never know, man. Styles make fights, and things happen in fights that you sometimes don't expect. And he got caught and he got stopped.
There's a lot of talk about this guy's potential as a star for the UFC. I mean, he does crazy numbers already. How much more does a championship add to that star power for Sean O'Malley?
We broke the all-time gate record here. Bruce Springsteen just played here and did $5 million. We did over $7 million. Okay, with the Boston Garden. We're the biggest thing other than the craziest fucking sports town on earth, other than their team that plays here. We're the biggest thing that's ever been here. So what does that tell you about O'Malley? This is also the biggest bantamweight championship fight ever on pay-per-view globally. It broke the record. Biggest bantamweight championship fight ever. I'm sure you saw the crowd at the end. O'Malley isn't going to be a star. He is a star.
We'll move on from him to Zhang Weili. Again, equally impressive, domination throughout that fight. She's potentially already the GOAT in that division. What did you make of her performance this evening?
Yeah, no, I mean, like you said, it was completely dominant. Lemos was tough as hell, ate a lot of shots. I mean, and she broke a record tonight for strike differential. She actually beat Valentina Shevchenko's record. And, I mean, you can't win any more dominantly than that other than a finish. She got out of a pretty scary choke at one point. I mean, she looked good. Especially, I mean, Lemos is so tough, and Lemos hits like a man. You know what I mean? When she throws punches, they have bad intentions. And she caught Weili a few times with some good shots, and she took those too. Weili Zhang is a beast.
It's a dominating win, right? But for Lemos, it's like she's so tough that her stock almost rises a bit. Okay, she might not beat the champion, but no one's putting her away anytime.
Yeah, I mean, listen, she's tough, but I mean the scores were insane, and the strike differential, and yeah, she's a nice kid. I like her, but she was completely outclassed tonight.
Right. Last one for me. Possibly the best tough finale since Bonner and Griffin.
Yeah, it was good, really good. I mean, they won the fight of the night. So it's pretty awesome when you have a card stacked with talent like tonight, and the Ultimate Fighter finale wins fight of the night. That's pretty impressive.
Obviously, the question that you've heard probably 3,000 times this year is, when do we see the coaches of that season fight? Is there an update on Conor versus Chandler?
No.
What did you make of Ian Garrett's performance? He's obviously another budding star. He seems to have his plan laid out. He wants 4 more fights and a title shot. What did you make of his win over Neil Magny?
Listen, very, very good win for him, because when you think of how tough and durable and crafty of a veteran that Magny is and how hard he is to put away, I thought he was a couple leg kicks away from that thing being over, and he was not. And Magny, being the stud that he is, he ran out of the octagon the way that he did because I think he didn't think if he waited longer he would be able to walk out of there. That's how tough he is. So, listen, Ian is a very confident, he when he looks back at the tape tonight and watches, how a crafty veteran like Magny got to the end of the third round, I think he'll learn a lot from this fight. And, it's almost like the perfect, as you look at opponents, Magny came in on late notice. He didn't train for Magny. He trained for Neil. So, yeah, he looked damn good.
What did you make of the build-up? Like at the press conference when Ian's bringing up the things that Neil said about, like, oh, when I whip my kids, and Ian's cutting him off saying, like, oh, you don't deserve to talk after saying that. What did you make of their build-up that kind of came out of nowhere?
I don't know. That shit happens in fights, man. You never know what's going to happen, what people are going to say, or what's going to go on. You never know, where their head is leading into these type of fights. And, fighting is a crazy fucking business, man. I mean, the stuff that's said, it's like when I come in here after a fight and they're like, oh my God, he said this. That's why I'm always like, I don't give a shit. This is the fight game. People say crazy stuff sometimes, and it just is what it is. And nobody in this room, maybe, I don't know if anybody, but pretty much I would think nobody in this room has ever been, in a fight like these guys are in, and what kind of pressure under what you're thinking. And it's a different world, man. It's different than playing a football game or a baseball game or anything else in life.
He obviously called out Wonderboy and wants a 5-round main event. Wonderboy has said, like, I'll fight the Ngaris of the world. Is that a fight you would be interested in?
Wonderboy turned the fight down tonight.
Okay, there you go. You talked to him right away, like right after?
Listen, we make fights, man. That's what we do.
Going further down, Cheeto got another big win. Sean O'Malley's called his shot. Like, he wants Cheeto in December. Is that something that you now have to seriously look at, too?
Following up the last question you asked me, we don't talk about fights the night of the fight.
What do you think Chris Weidman should do after
retire?
Retire?
I love Chris Weidman. I love him. I love his family, and I think he should retire. We talked to Doc D. Doc D thinks he blew his MCL, ACL. He blew one of the CLs, and guy's just coming back from a gruesome injury, and listen, man. Father time is not our friend at all, but definitely if you're a professional athlete, it's...
So if he comes up to you and says, I want one more fight, is that something you say, like, hey, maybe let's talk about this?
First of all, depending on the damage to the knee, you're talking another year. Right. So I would say, Chris, I love you. Please retire.
Dana, right here to your right. Given kind of where Ian is right now in his build, do you think it's time that the UFC finally goes back to Dublin at some point with him as a headliner? No?
Not yet. One more move, then we go to Dublin.
Gotcha. And kind of sticking with the locations, you had expressed after Weili's last fight, that I believe it was her last fight, or maybe it was when Yan Xiaonan won, that you want to go back to China this year. Is that something that we should expect to see Weili in the near future?
Probably.
And then one more from me. We talked to Joe Lozon yesterday at a Q&A. This is the first New England card you guys have held where there's no New Englanders on it. He said that he had hit you guys up a bunch to get on this card, and that he was told his services weren't needed.
It wasn't that services weren't needed. The card was full at the time that he was asking. We already had the card full.
Gotcha. So, like, you're cool with offering him fights if he wants to fight again?
I would like Joe to retire, too. You know what I mean? It gets to the point. It's like Chris Weidman. We're talking about Chris Weidman a minute ago. Weidman reached the pinnacle of the sport and did it in spectacular fashion, knocking out one of the greatest of all time, right? And what's now? Why? You know what I mean? To come back and feel it one more time. We felt it tonight, and he blew his knee out, and he's going to have to go through crazy surgery again and recover from it. It's just like, wow, you've already done it all. You've accomplished everything that you could hope to accomplish in the UFC. And saying that, so is Joe Lozon. Joe Lozon at one point held like the most fight of the night bonuses or performance bonuses or whatever it was. He's been a part of the Ultimate Fighter. He's done so much in the sport. You get to an age where it's just like, come on, guys.
And last one for me, the tough finale. Sometimes we see guys that lose the tough finale, like that's it for them. They don't have another UFC fight. But Cody Gibson, safe to say that he'll be sticking around?
Yeah, everybody's blowing me up saying give them both a contract. Yeah, he'll be sticking around.
And actually, I lied. I have one more. We didn't hear from you after Corey Sandhagen's win recently. I guess I just want to kind of figure out what you thought of it and kind of where he fits in this picture.
Yeah, listen, he's a stud. He's been apologizing to me nonstop about his performance. He needed elbow surgery, he hurt himself, and I said, kid, every fight can't be the greatest fight you've ever seen. Your performance before that was amazing. You stepped up and you took this fight again on short notice. Stop beating yourself up, man. You know what I mean? Every fight you see isn't going to be the greatest fight you've ever seen. And every fight you fight can't be the greatest fight you've ever fought. You won, you're in a great position. Heal up, get your shit together, and we'll get you back in there. And, you can erase everybody's memories of people thought that was whatever people thought of it. Yep.
Dana, right here in the front, a few questions for you. I know you don't like to make fights, so I'm not going to ask you about a specific fight, but how you did just say that you don't want Ian to go to Dublin next. I mean,
I do want Ian to go to Dublin, just not next.
Not next.
Madison Square Garden, he's got to go.
Okay, that was the question I was going to ask you. I mean, Irish guy, Madison Square
100%.
Garden. Is that like a done deal? You get him there?
There's a blueprint for this shit, and we got it. So
you just talked about Sean O'Malley saying how pro the crowd was from him. I don't remember the last time I saw a crowd be that one-sided for a guy who wasn't their hometown since probably Conor versus Dennis Siver right here.
It's true.
We always talk about who could be the next Conor, Ronda Rousey, Brock Lesnar. What about beyond that? Do you see someone on the roster, possibly Sean O'Malley after they could actually surpass that stardom of like a Conor and Ronda and all those?
Well, it's not about surpassing them. It's about who's next and how. And, when Conor McGregor exploded onto the scene, he ignited Europe and other parts of the world. And now, like Sean O'Malley coming into Boston, everywhere I went, yesterday and today, everywhere, and I'm sure you guys experienced this too, hair, shirts, the whole deal. I mean, everybody was wearing O'Malley stuff. And you saw the reaction when he won tonight, how the place just erupted. And when you think about this, I say it every fucking Tuesday. The Contender Series is the best show on television. The Contender Series is incredible. Now we have 2 world champions from the Contender Series and multiple, up-and-coming stars coming off that show. And if me and my crew, Hunter, the matchmakers, we're sitting at the office. It's fucking 4:57. We jump in the car and we drive over the Apex every Tuesday and literally watch the baddest fights that you could possibly see. And most of the media guys that are here do it too. I love the Contender, and the Contender is really this streamline to the world championship right now. It's awesome.
I think that's a perfect transition to my next question. Obviously, the Contender Series is continuing to build stars. Probably the biggest star since Sean O'Malley, in my opinion, is probably Bo Nickel. I mean, he's got that buzz around him. He said he's going to take some time off. Any idea when we could see him back in action?
100%. No, but yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, yeah, Bo Nickel, Macy Barber. I mean, Hill. I mean, so many people have come off that show. The list goes on and on. Kevin Holland. I think the last year it started, and then this year from episode 1, and now the second one we just did. This thing's trending worldwide now. When we do fights on Tuesday nights, they trend worldwide on social media. So, so before these guys ever set foot in the UFC, millions of people have seen them fight on the Contender Series. It's awesome.
And Dana, my last question.
And you know what's crazy? I'll tell you this too. So when I first started the Contender Series, right? So we used to take the numbers. We would judge guys by the numbers that they pulled. We had all the numbers written down on the wall in there on numbers that they pulled. How many millions of people watched the fight, and O'Malley was from day one number 1.
And my last question. Obviously, we just wrapped up the newest season of Ultimate Fighter. The finale was absolutely fantastic. But what was your overall thoughts of the entire show in general? Yeah,
it was a good season. I mean, since the Spike days when we first blew up and we're pulling massive numbers and things like that, the attention and the promotion that ESPN has given this season of The Ultimate Fighter has been incredible. So, yeah, it was good. Especially, like I said, when you have a finale. When's the last time an Ultimate Fighter finale was the fight of the night on a card like this, in a city like this? So
Dana, to your
Dana,
right.
come
Pretty
here.
awesome. Yeah.
What do you think should be next for Aljamain Sterling? Going into the fight week, he was talking about potentially going up to 145.
That's probably what he'll do. I don't know. Has he been in here yet?
No.
Yeah. Yeah, ask him. But if you're asking me right now, I'll bet he's going to say, I'm going to move up.
Okay. Yeah. If he were to want, say, like an immediate rematch or something like that, he was a very successful champion.
Not even thinking about that right now.
Okay. And we also had Michael Chandler here as a guest. He was saying that he kind of expects the fight with Conor to go down in December. I wonder if there's any update on that now that the tough season is.
He just asked me that, too. I'd say next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we also had Tatiana Suarez as a guest. She wants the next shot. Could we be looking at her?
Who said that?
Tatiana Suarez.
Oh, yeah. No, she looked good. I don't know. We'll see. But, yeah, I mean, she's a little badass, too.
Thank you.
Fun
Then
fight.
you're
Buddy.
You're right. You mentioned, you want one more for Ian, probably MSG in November. But can you kind of confirm that next year, all going well, there will be a return to Dublin?
We shook hands. I guaranteed him. We made a deal.
So you mentioned this Conor fight may be happening next year. Why not December? Is that completely off the table at this stage?
No.
Is the USADA thing a problem?
Oh, you're talking about Conor?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were asking me if we would go to Ireland first, if it's off the table. It's not off the table. And anything's possible, but I don't know. I can't. You're asking me questions I don't have the answers to. Why not December? Who the fuck knows? I don't know. We'll see how this thing plays out.
About one more as well. Your two sponsors with Prime, KSI and Logan, getting back in the ring. Are you going to watch their fights? And what do you think?
Who?
KSI and Logan Paul.
Oh, they're fighting again?
They're back. Like they're fighting on the same card.
Oh yeah. Okay. Listen, I like Logan. I like Logan a lot. Great kid. Who in this room thinks that's a great fight?
He's fighting.
Raise your hands, please, if him and Dylan Dennis is a great fight. I know he's fighting. Nobody? Not one guy?
Dan, question over here.
Yeah.
Kind of a hypothetical. Obviously, Sean is a big draw here. He's from Montana. There's a big fan base from him in Montana. Any chance ever in history there might be a card in the Treasure State?
Well, I love Montana. I love that state. I never say never, but we're not thinking about it right now.
Dana, over here.
Yeah.
Any update on light heavyweight title, Yuri Prochazka and Alex Pereira? Yuri is healthy and ready to fight.
Are they ready to fight?
Yeah. I mean, do you know when, maybe?
I do not. If I did, we would have announced it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dana
Yeah.
over here. Sorry. I have to ask for the people in Ecuador. Do you think Michael Morales will fight again this year? And if so, can you tell us when?
I have no idea.
Thank you very
back
much.
here.
I've been here too long when these are the fucking questions you're asking me now. Hey, when this guy's gonna fight, what about that guy? What do you got?
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
So I talked to the great John Anik, and he thinks the Patriots are not going to go to the Super Bowl. Are you ready to reprimand him, or what do you think about that?
That's just fucking rude. John Anik, are you crazy? I would love to see them go to the Super Bowl again, but I say it all the time. Over the last 20 years, the Patriots have given us so much joy and happiness, you know what I mean? We can take a little rebuilding time if we need to, but shame on you, John Anik.
So, question for me. Obviously, you brought up the Contender Series and Sugar Sean O'Malley coming from that system and making his way up to the championship. But there are so many different promotions like Ring of Combat with the great Lou Negale, who I work for, and also like Titan FC and a bunch of different feeder systems. Like, is there any talent that you have your eye on, or somebody that you're going to be inviting to the Contender Series that you have high hopes for, or anybody?
Well, we're in the second week. We got 8 more weeks left of the Contender Series.
Fair enough, sir.
So, yes, we have tons of talent coming through there. And I don't think we've turned down a fighter. We've picked every fighter in the first 2 episodes. We haven't even – we picked every fighter that's fought on the last 2 episodes. So, listen, I love Tuesdays. It's my favorite time of the week. I love that show, and I'm excited for the next 8 weeks. And, there's tons of talent coming through.
You got an eye for talent. I have to admit that.
Thank
But
you.
nevertheless, is there anybody on this card that popped out? Like Ian Gary was amazing, and is there anybody that popped out for you on the card that you really stood out for you that you're gonna move up, or
Well,
anybody?
I would say the entire undercard looked incredible. I mean, you know, as you got into the main card, there were a lot of fights that people were highly anticipating. But, you know, when you talk about Gibson and Katana, unbelievable fight. When you talk about Silva, you know, there was just so many great fights on the Rodriguez. I mean, the undercard was incredible.
Fair enough. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, Dana,
Right here,
just a
buddy.
quick one. Any update on if you guys are coming back to Atlantic City this year? I know that was rumored for December.
I don't know.
Hey, Dana. Good enough
I
for me,
hope
thank
so.
You hope so, you said?
I hope so. Yeah.
Thank you, Dana.
All right, buddy.
Dana, right here down the middle.
Yeah.
We spoke to Ian Gary earlier in the week, and he said that he was surprised that fellow Irishman Paul Hughes hasn't been signed to the UFC. Is Paul Hughes on your radar at all?
Do you know how many guys are surprised that their guys they're friends with haven't been signed to the UFC yet? I hear that every day. But you know, with the Contender Series going on right now, and with the amount of fights that we put on right now, the other thing that's happened is we've had. It's been a while since the injury bug has fucking terrorized us like it has over the last few months. So if he is somebody that is that good and that we're interested in, Sean and Mick will find him and bring him in here.
And Conor McGregor was tweeting after Kurt Holloway's win that he wants to see him rematch Lee Hammond from this season of The Ultimate Fighter. Is Lee Hammond potentially going to get a second shot at the UFC?
I don't know. We'll see.
And last one for me. You said
Yep.
this event broke the bantamweight title fight pay-per-view record.
Yeah.
Do you have a current estimate on that number?
I do, but that belongs to ESPN, so I don't give that out anymore. But yeah, it crushed the record for the bantamweight championship. Yeah, this thing broke tons of records. The gate, the pay-per-view, social media was massive too, and now that he won, it's probably going to be even bigger. And I guarantee we're going to do an economic study on Boston. You know, the economic impact that we had on this city had to be massive too, for not a Celtics or Bruins game or Patriots game. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Thank you, Dan.
Big night.
Hey,
Big
Dana,
night.
how are you? To your left. Now, given O'Malley's meteoric rise, right? You know, Snoop Dogg at the Contender Series, there have been a lot of people saying that he was going to be a champion really early on in his career. Was there a moment where you knew that he would be a future champion, or you first thought that?
Well, I think people thought that for a long time, and then he got a lot of criticism after the Cheeto Vera fight. You can never tell in this sport, man. You never know how. Listen to me. Don't fucking lie to me. How many people thought he was going to win tonight? Raise your hand. No, go ahead. Raise your hand. Don't be shy. One guy? Two guys? No? Yeah? You? How many reporters are in here tonight, Lene? Huh? 70. There's 70 reporters in this room right now. One guy raised his hand that thought Sean O'Malley was going to win tonight, right? Who the fuck knows? This sport is crazy. I mean, anything can happen on any given night. And it happened tonight. You know, most of you that follow the sport and are educated in the sport said what everybody said. How does he not get taken down and absolutely destroyed on the ground? How does he stop the takedown? Maybe he'll stop it a few times, but this goes, the longer this thing goes and the more he defends the takedown, he's going to be in big trouble. And here we are in this room now talking about how Sean O'Malley is the champion. So I know you don't ever really, let's talk about Bo Nickel that he brought up the other day, a couple minutes ago. He was great. Unbelievable. Once you crack that top five, very few people make it into the top five, right? It's a whole nother ball game when you're in the top five. So 69 reporters in here said no. One guy raised his hand and said yes. What the fuck do I know?
You talked about wanting to do an economic study, and this weekend, especially in Boston, it seemed like a lot of green hair and a lot of country hats for that Morgan Wallen concert, right? Given the impact that Sean had, have you seen something like that around a city that one fighter can have so many people? You know,
not since the rise of Conor McGregor, yeah. Not since the rise of Conor McGregor. And Ronda, too. Ronda, when Ronda started to really take off, Ronda had that buzz, too. Chuck Liddell.
Given how well it did in Boston, would you consider coming back anytime in the near future? I know that COVID really impacted things, but...
Anytime I get an excuse to come back to Boston, I'm coming, believe me. Like I say, when we go to all these cities, and you know, listen, we've been selling out since, you know, since you could put people back in the arena again. And there's so many places that we haven't been. You know, tonight, you know, when we do these events, we have lots of sponsors and other people here. So people were hitting me up tonight, when are you coming back to Chicago? When are you coming back here? When are you coming back there? So, you know, so many cities that we got to get back to. But I love this city. I love the Encore. I love the food in the North End. I mean, it's just, I love the steak tips out in South Boston. I'll get back here as many times as I possibly can.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. You guys done with me?
So, Donna.
One more? Yeah.
Yes,
Yes,
Donna,
sir.
This is from China Migu. Currently, you know, Wei Li and Lem's fight attract over 1.9 billion views in China's social media. So, however, consider, you know, bring the UFC back to China this year?
That makes me very happy, sir. I'm happy to hear that. And the answer is yes.
Do you know when?
I do not. As soon as possible.
So you see really, you know, from 2018 when she got into the UFC, and now she improved herself very well. Who do you think the next challenger for her?
I don't know.
If this can,
we're working on that right now. She's up next. She'll be in here. I think you should ask her who she wants to fight. She's the queen. She's the champ. She's a beast. She could do whatever she wants. So, talk to her. Cool.
Thank
you. Good? All right. She's up next. Have a good night, boys.